So, this is something that I don't do very often, if at all, make videos of myself. Now, in saying that, this is something that I want to be able to do a little bit more because at the end of the day, I've written quite a few articles and I've created content that's really designed to be able to help people and where they're at. And that's something that I love to do. But today, I want to be able to share a little bit more about me, just in case if you've seen any of my stuff and you're wondering who I am. So, this is me. My name's Matt. In saying that, you probably already know that. So, let me take you through a little bit about my history and essentially working towards why I do what it is that I do now. So, my career has been, it's not been linear. That's what it's not been. It's more of a zigzag going across different directions. So I started my career in the Royal Australian Navy. And while I was in the Navy, I was working in communication information systems. So that's a big mouthful to be able to say that I worked on the radios. I also worked with visual signaling, knowing how to do Morse code. So doing all of that type of stuff. Now, in saying that, I chose not to have a long career in the Navy because I was always looking for what's the next thing. I had no idea what that was or what that was going to look like. But what I knew is that I knew that I didn't want to stay where I was. I wanted to try something different, to do new things. And that's kind of where I found myself getting stuck for the first time. I had no career aspects. I was nervous during interviews. And I went through a part where I was just trying to get anything that I could, just to share with you. I remember when I discharged, I was still living in Sydney, and I decided to move back home with my mum and dad. And that was great for the first couple of weeks until I realized that I just got to get out, and I got to try to move somewhere that it's going to be easier to get a job. So I decided to move to Canberra, and it still wasn't easy to get a job. So eventually, I did find work working in video teleconferencing. That doesn't exist anymore. Then I worked in catering roles, and then I found some work working in customer service. And that actually had some positives for me because what I really enjoyed out of customer service roles was helping people. And also when I got good at it, I was helping other people learn about the role and learn the systems. And I was really good at to be able to teach them in how they can also utilize the systems. Now, I worked different jobs in different states in Australia. So I went from Canberra, I moved to Brisbane because I was over the cold weather, but I still had no idea what it was that I wanted to do. None. I was just going from job to job to job. Until eventually I was working at an organisation called Queensland Motorways. And I just remember that part of my life was probably one of my angriest, if I'm going to be honest. I was frustrated. I was annoyed at everything, and I had all of this blame, and a lot of it was external. And it got to a point where it went internal, and I was pretty upset with me thinking about all of the achievements that I was able to achieve within the Navy. And since then, I've got nothing to show for it. And I went to a pretty dark place. Then I realized that none of this was helping. And one thing I learned a few years ago is when we decide to take action, a lot of the time there's two different reasons. We take action out of fear and we take action out of love. And where I was is I took action out of fear because I was sick and tired of being where I was. I had nothing my own. I was living in a share house. I was in debt. And I did not do anything that I actually enjoyed. The work was okay, but I wanted more than what it was that I was doing. So this is the part of my life which I have the greatest learning out of it. And I started to ask myself the question, because everyone tells you to do this, right? Do something that you love. I couldn't answer that question. So I do what I do best, is I make lists. And it was when I was making a list, and that's when I kind of found out that there was lots of things that are actually in common of all the different jobs that I've done. That's what I based my list on. What are all the different roles that I've done, and what was it about all of these different roles that I love doing? And the main common theme was helping people in lots of different ways, training others, just helping people to be able to get from A to B. And then I started to get curious. And it was through being curious that I was able to keep moving forward and ask myself more questions. And that's where I understood that while I like helping people, what I like doing specifically is helping people get from point A to point B. And I used to be able to do that in the best way suited for that individual. That's what I love doing. So after a lot of research to be able to work it out, how can I actually make this a job? How can I, look, let's face it, how can I make money out of it? Because I wanted to get out of my situation. That's when I found learning development. And then that started the next 12 to 13 years working as a learning development manager through lots of different organizations in lots of different industries to be able to give me a lot of different experience, which I cherish. And that lasted a while until I got to the point where it wasn't driving me anymore. And then I started to ask the question again about what is it that I truly love? And it was still helping people, but it was more about helping the individuals. While I can acknowledge my impact on organizations, that didn't give me any thrill. Watching people grow and develop, that's something that I was passionate about. And I remember for a long time, I always had this thought, when I'm ready, I'm going to start my own coaching practice. And someone once asked me the question, how do I know when I'm going to be ready? I didn't. I wouldn't. So it got to the point where I thought, all right, I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to start to create a business which focuses on purely what I enjoy, which is helping people grow and develop. And that's who I am. But that's not only what I am. Outside of my business, helping people grow, I'm a dad, I'm a husband. I've got two awesome boys, and ages 5 and 8, and they keep me on my toes. And honestly, I learn a lot from them. Presence is a big one, to be able to remain present amongst all of the distractions in this day and age. But I absolutely love my family to death, and I'll do anything for them. So that's a little bit more about me. Now, of course, anyone who has had a conversation with me already knows that I love to be able to share my story, because I really do feel that there's value in other people's stories just from storytelling. So if you do have any other questions about me, about my experience, about what I went through, just in case if you're going through something similar, well, that's pretty much what I do in my business. I don't work with every single person who I talk to, but what I do is I have conversations with people. And some of those people I keep on working with, and the others I keep contacting, keep on having conversations with them. See what comes up. Anyway, thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.